Anthony Joshua knocks out Raphael Zumbano Love in the second round. Now, Zumbano Love went 12 rounds with Shannon Briggs last year. I think it was 8 months ago. And he took some wicked shots from Shannon Briggs and he showed terrific toughness because Briggs can still bang, and he hit Zumbano Love with everything but the kitchen sink. He showed tremendous toughness in that fight. Then he went 10 rounds, well, he went 8 rounds with Eric Molina, who's kind of a fringe contender this year. He was stopped on his feet. And then in his fight before last, he went 10 rounds with an undefeated heavyweight prospect from America called Charles Martin, who can really punch. So on paper, you would say, okay, well, Joshua got rid of the guy in 2 rounds when the other heavyweight prospect, Charles Martin, took 10 rounds. And that would seem like he did a really good job there. But I have to say that Zumbano Love didn't look in anywhere near the kind of condition that he was in previous fights. And again, Zumbano Love was never going to come with any real ambition, but he was in much better shape when I saw him in the Briggs fight. In this fight, he just looked a total mess. He looked like he hadn't trained for the fight at all, which he maybe hadn't. Took the fight on short notice and just came in and thought to hell with it. And Joshua landed a good shot to knock him out. It was one of Joshua's, because people are criticizing Joshua for not having many clean knockouts. But if referees are stopping the fights, some of the fights, while the opponents run the ropes, covering up, I guess he won't have the opportunity to score that many clean knockouts. But for what it was worth, this was a clean knockout. Zumbano Love wasn't out cold, but he went down hard and he didn't get up before the count of 10. But as I say, Zumbano Love didn't look in anywhere near the kind of condition that he was in some of his recent fights. So that has to be admitted. So that was Joshua's 12th fight. His next fight is going to be against Kevin Johnson later on this month, a guy who claims he's been training. Kevin Johnson was there. He got up in the ring and he was staring at Joshua and talking his trash and all this stuff. Kevin Johnson always talks a good game. But then when the fight happens, the guy never delivers. So you have to expect it's going to be the same thing this time with Joshua, that he's most likely not going to deliver. Johnson, he's got a pesky jab. He's got a sneaky right hand that he throws here and there, but for the majority of most of his fights, it's just that pesky jab that he throws out there. It's a good jab, but it's not nothing. It's not Vladimir Klitschko, but it's okay. So I don't expect Joshua to have too many problems in terms of losing rounds or anything like that against Johnson. That's not what I anticipate. It's just a case of, can he manage to get him out of there? Because Johnson obviously has never been stopped. He's been in there with Klitschko, Chisora, Fury. No one's ever managed to stop this guy because he is very slippery with his defense and difficult to tag clean. Chisora is the only guy who ever dropped him. So we'll see what he can do against Kevin Johnson. And once again, there are going to be people saying Joshua is fighting bums. Why is he not fighting anyone good? And it's like people are not hearing me. Go and look who Mike Tyson fought in his 12th fight. He fought a guy called Eddie Richardson, who he knocked out in 1 round. Eddie Richardson was, a complete journeyman. Go look who Mayweather fought in his 12th fight. He fought a journeyman too. I think the guy was, can't remember off the top of my head, I think it was like 8 wins and 6 losses or something. These are the guys that Mayweather and Mike Tyson were fighting in their 12 fights. Go look at who Vladimir Klitschko fought in his 12th fight. They were all fighting this level of opposition. And someone commented on my last video and said, yeah, but Mayweather won a world title inside the first 2 years of him fighting. Well, Mayweather, for one, was far more experienced as an amateur than Joshua. So you can move a guy like that quicker. But and also they were saying that Tyson also fought for the world title just over 2 years after he turned pro. But again, Tyson had 20 odd fights by the time he fought for the title. So we're not talking about, timescales are irrelevant in boxing, really, when it comes to being prepared to fight. What if you've only had 5 fights in 2 years? Does that mean you're as ready as someone that's had 20 fights in 2 years? Obviously not. So don't worry about if Joshua, because Joshua's been pro now a year and a half. Don't worry about if he's been pro a year and a half. Look how many fights he's had. And those complaining that he's not had enough fights, 12 fights in a year and a half is fine. He's been injured a couple times, so he had to pull out of a couple fights. You can't do nothing about that. And a lot of and at the end of the day, the frequency of his fights is mainly also down to Eddie Hearn and how many TV dates Eddie Hearn's got. And Eddie Hearn's TV dates are determined by Sky. So there's nothing wrong. People are just complaining for the sake of complaining. Yes, he's fighting journeyman, but this is the way it's usually done, particularly when a guy don't have that much amateur experience like Joshua don't. You have to take him slowly. In a 12th fight against a journeyman, an unambitious journeyman like this, it's no different than what Tyson did in his 12th fight, no different than what Mayweather did in his 12th fight, no different than what Vladimir Klitschko did in his 12th fight. And Vladimir Klitschko took 4 years before he challenged for a world title. I believe it was 3.5 or 4 years before Vladimir Klitschko fought for a world title when he turned pro. And it's like people are acting like Joshua needs to be fighting world level opposition soon. He's only been pro 1.5 years. Come on, people. Like, let's be realistic here. So the one thing I'll agree with what people are saying, he shouldn't be headlining shows. I've said that before in many videos. He should not be headlining shows, and he shouldn't be getting all this type of fanfare so early. And one thing I do worry about with Joshua, which I've mentioned in the previous video, is his mindset. He seems quite an easy guy to agitate. And the further you move up in boxing, the psychological aspect of the game becomes more and more important. So it's never good to be a guy who is too easily agitated. Joshua seems to have a temper, like a seething rage inside him, which it don't seem that difficult to provoke. And against these journeyman type fighters, it's not really going to make much difference because they're going to lose either way. But against a guy who can actually compete with him ability wise, that's when psychology can give the other guy the edge. Because once you get up to the higher levels and everyone's very similar in terms of ability and skills, you need whatever edge you can get. And if people can get a psychological edge over him by getting under his skin, and he's already a big muscular guy, if you can get him angry, you can get him to fight tense, even more tense, and throw him off his game. So that's one thing I am concerned about with Joshua, is the mental side of him. He seems a bit too easy to wind up. You never like to see that. So we'll see what happens anyway. Maybe he'll respond to it well. Maybe he'll be able to channel that aggression once he gets in the ring, and it's only outside the ring that he's a bit, easy to rile. But we'll see. So let me know how you felt about the fight. I'm pretty sure I know what most of you are going to say, but it's like you ain't hearing me, man. In fact, I'll put links on screen right now to Mike Tyson's 12th fight, to Floyd Mayweather's 12th fight, and also to Vladimir Klitschko's 12th fight, if I can find it. All right, I'll put links to those fights. Go watch them and come back and tell me that Joshua should be fighting a better level of opposition when those guys weren't. All right, like I said, don't worry about time scales. Think about fights, number of fights. Tyson had an incredible amount of fights inside his first 2 years. And he had 26 fights by the time he fought for the title, 26 fights in 2 years. There's no way that Eddie Hearn's going to have enough shows to get him 26 fights in 2 years. So that's how, who the hell does have enough shows to get a guy 26 fights in 2 years? Very few promoters do. So that is what that is. You're just complaining just for the sake of complaining. Anyway, I'm out.